what got you into starting your own brokerage? When does that come into play in your story?
Well, I went back to work for Texoma Land. That's the guys I started with, two landmen named Jeff Miller and David Vaughn. I know Jeff's retired. I think David is too. Really good contract landmen, guys that were really influential in my career in that they just did good land work, and they both had a mentoring personality, a teaching personality. But um, and I've been friends with Jeff for a long time. Jeff and I played baseball together, high school Legion ball. Jeff was a year older than myself, but they called me in '91, and they had a pretty big ticket. I believe it was for Barrett Resources out of Denver. Said, hey, we got quite a bit of work. Would you be interested in getting back into land? And like I said earlier, I jumped at the opportunity because I hated what I was doing. And I worked there from 91 to 98. So another 7 years. In the last 2 or 3 years, I was a project lead. So I got to head up some projects and that type of thing. And I actually was able in my last couple of years there to go out and secure some work for the brokerage firm through some contacts I'd met. And that was exciting to me. And I was tickled about that because I felt like in some small way I was paying Jeff and David back or being some type of return on all the time and efforts that they made and helping me to become a landman. But at that point in time too, Khalil, I had 4 kids by that time. And let's see, in 98, they'd have been like 18, 16, 13, and 11. And I'm like, man, how am I going to get these kids through college and so on and so forth? And so I decided to hang a shingle, and I did. And I think those first 2 or 3 years of JC Land's existence, about half the time I was working for JC Land, and about half the time I was working for Texoma or J.O. Easley or whoever else had work because I didn't have it. And I was looking for it, hunting for it. And we finally got a pretty good Chesapeake ticket in, I think it was 2001, 2002, Larry Coe show. We did a bunch of work for him on just curative type, diligence type work on their lease files. And it was about a 1.5 or 2 year project that allowed my little firm to put, I don't know, 6 or 8 people, keep 6 or 8 people working. But it was a big enough ticket to help us get a little foundation under us. And then we continued to grow but that's how I got started. I was kind of driven. I just needed to try to make a little more money.
There's probably landmen out there that have considered maybe becoming a broker, think that they might be able to do that job fairly well, those field landmen. What are some of the differences and things that you didn't expect going into becoming a broker after being a field landman?
I think I knew intuitively a little bit, but I really didn't understand the difficulty in managing through the ups and downs, and how critical that was. That's why I listened to Tom Dudley and Tom Havenstreit's story, what they've done with DLC, and just, had a ton of respect, because in my circle, they managed through those difficulties better about anybody else I know, in a more professional way, in a more corporate way. I mean, a lot of brokers just, when the faucets turn off, they just lay everybody down and everybody goes away and they just hunker down and survive. And we went through a period at JC Land where we had a lot of growth from like 2001 to 2008. We had went from a 10 contractor brokerage firm to 60, 65 people. And boy, that thing hit at the end of 2008. And we had, we had 20, 25, 30 core staff people that we had spent a lot of time training and invested a lot of effort in, because the challenge at that point in time was to find managers. I always used to say, all the good landmen, or a lot of the old experienced landmen at that time, they didn't want to manage anything. They didn't want to manage anybody. Just give me my portion of the work, and I'm going to go do it and, and leave me be, so to speak. But which I can understand. And but we worked hard at building people, and then 2009 came, and we just had uh, no work and no revenue. And unlike a lot of brokers, I think I mentioned to Brandon, I related to what Tom Dudley said in his podcast that because like Tom, I wasn't great at letting people go. And especially when we had spent a lot of time in effort to help them get to where they were in their skill sets. And also knowing that they had kids at home they were feeding and mortgages to pay. And so for 2009, we kept a lot of people working probably too long. It really adversely affected JC Land going forward. And it left me at a point in time. I remember my accountant told me, she said, when are you going to let some more of these people go? When you run out of money to pay them? And I said, it kind of looks that way, doesn't it? Because we burned through a lot of reserves in 2009. But back to your question, Khalil, I didn't truly understand how difficult that was going to be to manage.
Yeah, I think what Dudley Land has done, and just like Jack said, and through history, is diversified themselves enough, whether that be by region or by type of work, or by training landmen to do different things, to stay relevant. The downtimes hit us all. When they hit, they hurt, especially whenever you're a smaller brokerage or a brokerage that has, typically like Dudley, carries a lot of overhead uh, to be able to train people and to offer the services that Dudley Land offers and offer the product that we do for the price that we do. There's a lot of happening on the back end of that. And the fact that Tom and Tom were visionaries enough and were okay with carrying that load, and as good a business development people as they are, the fact that they made that commitment was what kind of drove Dudley forward, and it's where we're at today, and why me, Brent, and Steve get to kind of carry on that legacy, and uh, hopefully do some things like what they've done and make it better, and continue it on. We go to we're third generation. Hopefully we go to a fourth and a fifth generation at some point. So we're currently looking for those people that are visionaries and want to do something special, and continue the Dudley Land name, and continue our success.